This week on the Shame Free Life podcast radio show, we're going to have a candid conversation concerning overcoming adversity. Let's talk.
Today is about the power of you.
We can be whatever we dream.
You're locked into another episode of 15 Minutes of Shame. Each week, we'll help you rebuild your life one brick at a time by addressing real life issues from a practical and biblical perspective.
I had to believe in myself like never before.
This is the Shame Free Radio Show.
Finding a solution to become the greatest.
And now your host, minister, author, grief and trauma support specialist, Dr. Ronald Zion Roseborough.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is it.
Good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are, coast to coast, around the globe. You are locked inside of another installment inside the Shame Free Life radio show with yours truly, Ronald Zion. It is a pleasure to be back with you once again. I am delighted. I'm elated. I am taken aback. All of those things pertaining to this particular segment and subject matter pertaining to overcoming adversity. We have a special in-studio guest that just stopped by to expound on overcoming adversity, to just be an unstoppable you. But first, we're going to take a couple of moments to take a quick commercial break or two, and we will be right back momentarily. Have you considered continuing your education? Or do you find yourself like so many, sidetracked by life, fear, or maybe even excuses? Well, I've come to tell you that there is absolutely no perfect time than right now. Time is ticking away. So get your degree today. Rehoboth International Bible College is an accredited university designed to meet your higher biblical education needs. Simply go to RehobothInternationalBibleCollege.com or call 866-235-0812 extension 0. You are an investment, so it is past time for you to reap the dividends. Rehoboth International Bible College. Have you ever felt alone and life is out of control? Perhaps like a sailboat at sea in the midst of a tsunami. Well, you're not alone. Here at the Shame Free Life, LLC, we offer services in trauma recovery, crisis intervention, and empowerment coaching. We operate in integrity, confidentiality, empathy with coaching ethics. Contact us at theshamefreelife.com. or email us at contact@theshamefreelife.com. You may not be responsible for your injury, but you are responsible for your healing. Let us help you rebuild your life one brick at a time, because your life begins when you say so. Indeed, we are back, and you may not be responsible for your injury, but we are responsible for our own inner healing. And I want to introduce to some, present to others, the in-studio guests that just stopped in, just flew in by way of Phoenix, Arizona, Miss Stacie J. Whitaker-Harris. She empowers women to embrace mental health and wellness and encourages healing and wholeness after traumatic life experiences. She is a minister of the gospel, author, poet, vocalist, inspirational speaker, mental health advocate and coach, steward of children, and a peace pusher. I like that advocates for social equality. She holds a master's in law and a bachelor's in nonprofit management. Stacie served as a keynote speaker for the following: the Revolutionary Christian Literacy Conference, University of Wisconsin-Madison's BSU Leadership Conference, and Zion Oasis Empowerment Ministries. No, it's not my ministry, even though my name is Zion. To name a few, she spoke as a panelist for Grace New Hope Women's event, Real Issues Women Face, a closer look at depression, anxiety, abuse, and low self-esteem. As the women speak, we speak justice for all platform architect. She facilitated topics on mental wellness in the Black community and campus safety and the college climate. She authored Heaven and Hell at 8, co-authored the Whitaker Book of Poetry, and contributed to Permission to Feel and Heal. What Goes On in My House Stays in My House, Breaking My Silence for My Sanity. My Now for the College Grad, My Now for the Future Woman, Strengthening Your Walk Daily Devotional, and appeared as a professional contributor in Upside Down, the alarming phenomenon of stress on university students. She formerly contributed to the Examiner's Faith and Culture online newspaper and freelances for various projects. Last but not least, Stacie is the loving mother of 3 young adults that she cherishes as jewels and a fur baby that she adores. Well, you've heard it all, and I'm pretty sure that there is more that she has not or that I haven't expounded on. But Stacie, thank you so much for stopping by the Shame Free Life studio to talk about overcoming adversity. We want to thank you so much for stopping by. We certainly appreciate that. Let's give you a round of applause now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I definitely appreciate you inviting me and allowing me to be here and be present with you today. And for all the people that are listening, thank you so much for listening and tapping in. Hope that it is beneficial to everyone that hears.
Absolutely. I mean, you have done so much. I mean, your background and wearing so many hats is just amazing. Which brings us to the Unstoppable Me Conference. Tell us a little bit more about this Unstoppable Me Conference, Overcoming Adversity.
Absolutely. We have the awesome and amazing Jennifer Foxworthy, who was the founder and the CEO of the Unstoppable You Ministry. She definitely invited me to be a part of the Unstoppable You Conference, and she does a lot with awareness for human trafficking and domestic violence and homelessness. And we have such an alignment in those areas that I just thought that it was just a great honor to be invited to participate in this conference.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you want me to tell you when the date is, but I'll do that. The conference is actually going to be March the 12th, 2022. And it's going to be here in Phoenix at 122 East Culver Street at the Arizona Jewish Historical Society. So I'm looking forward to it. Excited.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it seems that this particular conference, and we're going to get a little bit more into you as a woman, as a mother, as a woman of the Most High, and what you do as far as ministry, as an author, all of that. But it seems that this particular conference is so timely because when we talk about conferences, I mean, we have conferences galore. I mean, conferences on top of conferences, but many of which don't address, even from a spiritual standpoint, the reality of trauma, which you do individually, but now you're going to do collectively with this particular conference. Let's talk about as far as being unstoppable, even though that you are in a place, there may be someone right now in a place of adversity, in a place of brokenness, in a place of trauma. How does one overcome that particular adversity to even embrace becoming unstoppable?
So that's a great question, and I definitely appreciate you asking that question, Zion. So one of the first things that I thought to myself is being unstoppable doesn't mean that you have it all together. It doesn't mean that you have that you are perfect. It doesn't mean that you know it all. But actually, being unstoppable means that you're acknowledging where you are broken, where you need healing, where you need mending, and you're willing to do the work necessary to heal and to grow and to be whole. And when God really initially spoke to me so many years ago about me, I mean, it was about ministry, but it was really about me. Having gone through domestic violence, having gone through child sexual abuse, and all sorts of things that I've experienced in my life, which is not unique. Unfortunately, we have too many people that have experienced the same things that I have experienced, and they're holding all of those things inside. It's being bottled up, and at some point you either collapse or you explode, and both are dangerous. They're dangerous not just to you, but they're dangerous to the people who are around you, that surround you, that encounter you, people that you are supposed to be a light for. You're actually doing something that is actually detrimental to both them and yourself and all the people that come in contact with you and with them. So that's that cyclical effect of how trauma and adversity, how it impacts not just the person that has gone through the experience, but all the people connected to you and all the people connected to the people that's connected to you. You see what I'm saying? It's like it's this constant thing. So being unstoppable just means that you're taking time to really look at yourself, do a deep search, and really avail and open yourself to God. So one of the other things that came to my mind is, God really started speaking to me over the last 2 years, some of the things that I experienced and went through, how God was speaking to me from Second Chronicles. And I know I continue to share this passage because it is so ingrained in my spirit for what it is in this time, in this season, that people need to know. That we have been so accustomed to go through something in life and just because of your experience with whatever the adversity was, whether it was homelessness, whether it was a false accusation against you, whether it was, your parents were divorced or maybe your marriage didn't work out, or whatever those different things are that we experience. It's like then you feel lost, you feel alone, you feel, you ostracize yourself. You feel like everybody's making you an outcast, but really it's you. Setting yourself in your own little box, in your own little timeout corner. And then you come out swinging. Every single time you come out, you're coming out fighting everything, everybody, even the people that mean you well and want to help you and want to see you grow and they want to see you develop and they want to see you heal and they want to see you whole. But you fighting everything and everybody because everybody has become a problem for you because of the unresolved issues on the inside. But I remember in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, God said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, even though I'm looking right at the scripture right now. I'm going to paraphrase it from about verse 15 all the way through in about verse 26. I'm not going to say the whole thing, but it's just the word is saying right here that at some point when you acknowledge that you need to be healed, that you got to understand, you got to be courageous enough to stop and understand that you don't have to fight anymore. And that is hard to do. That is really hard to do. But you have to take a moment, stop, recognize that God is with you, be open to God being with you, be open to being in His presence. And that's also hard when you feel dirty or you feel ashamed or you feel guilty. But you have to really lean into that. So anyway, I said a mouthful, and I'm going to stop for a moment and just let you come back on in.
Yeah, I think you really hit on so much that we really need to kind of just unpack. Oftentimes, Stacie, and we go way back, but you have really evolved, and this fast track. It doesn't seem like that it's as fast as you would like, but this fast track that God has you on, as it relates to inner healing and also sharing that with others, that they can come out of the shame that oftentimes paralyze. One of the things about in the opening bio, as it relates to mental health and how much that really means to you, not just as a person, as a laborer of Christ, but just in general as it relates to the Black community, and so much stigma as it relates to mental health, and how we oftentimes shame one another for seeking help, seeking assistance through counselor, through therapists, through psychologists or psychiatrists, or life coaching. Oftentimes we shame one another because of ignorance, miseducation surrounding the reality of mental health. I want to kind of pivot and talk to you about perhaps women that you've dealt with in the past, that you in your books, your literature, your writings, or just counseling. I want to talk about trauma bonding. And I think, a definition, and I can go into it myself, but just looking at domesticshelters.org, when it talks about trauma bonding is a type of attachment that one can feel towards someone who's causing them trauma. It brings with it not only feelings of sympathy, compassion, and love, but also confusion. So when we talk about individuals that may be at this conference, may want to participate in the conference, and we'll talk more about that as well, how prevalent, from what you have seen, maybe experience, is trauma bonding in a relationship? And how difficult is it for people to talk about trauma bonding once it's brought to their attention that they are bonded to someone who was abusing them? Perhaps they're borderline narcissistic in their behavior, but they're involved in this relationship that is toxic, but is rooted in trauma bonding. How prevalent is it in the community?
Wow. I mean, another great question, Zion. I thank you for that question as well. Wow. A lot of things went through my head when you said it. I want to backtrack and just say you are absolutely correct. No, this is a fast track since the last 2 years. It's a really fast track for healing for myself. I do believe that trauma bonding is real. I've experienced it. And I'm not going to speak to any clients that I work with specifically, but I'm going to speak specifically about myself and about my family. So within my family, we have a lot of people who have had some chemical imbalances mentally, with different diagnoses. And I know, unfortunately, the church is one place from so many years that definitely did not embrace people with mental health issues. They said that these mental health issues were demons. Now, we're not going to get into the difference between there. That's real, and it can be a real thing. But we often overlook mental health and the possibilities of those chemical imbalances or trauma and its impact and effect on people individually. So within my family, I know that like, for instance, me and my siblings, we lost my mom May 29, 2000. I mean, it happened rather suddenly. It was, something we wasn't expecting because she had already had a heart attack and she was just on the cusp of her 2-year recovery from the first heart attack that she had in 98. And so we thought that she was in the clear. The doctor said if she didn't have another heart attack within that, time frame, that she would more than likely be able to survive. But if she had another heart attack within that 2 years, that she probably wouldn't make it. And so my mom passed from having another heart attack. And I can say that we bonded over that trauma, but we bonded to other people because of that trauma of losing our mom. Like, I wasn't a little kid, but I was still a young woman, a 24-year-old with 3 children and a husband at that particular time, and still felt like I needed my mom. I can see where each one of me and my siblings bonded to somebody else or something else that to help through that particular time that we were going through. And I didn't see it as such then, but I can look back now and say that we definitely did do that. And how hard it is to even recognize that you did that. Now, after being separated from my family, I can sit back and look and say, wow, we were definitely, I don't even really know the appropriate words to use for it right now, but we were definitely stuck in a lot of ways from grief. That's a trauma. Grief is real. It can create a different kind of thing for you on the inside of your body, your mind. You hold on to all of that grief, and it comes out in different ways as well. So as far as, I guess I do have another example. Like, you have people who have gone through sexual trauma, and then they bond to or stick with other people that also have gone through similar traumas. And I know that all too well. And it's really just challenging to be able to see it while you're in it. But it's not until you come out of it that you're able to see it and be like, wow, that was what was going on. And be able to call it as it is. So I don't know to speak to any other person. I wouldn't want to share any clients or other people's personal information. But yeah, it's a real thing. It's definitely a real thing.
Absolutely, it's real. And again, I think that there's a shame that's attached to it. But especially when you see many of the telltale signs and the symptoms of the trauma, and also, post-traumatic stress disorder that we see, in our community. I mean, even as we speak right now, that there is a war that's taking place in Ukraine. That's trauma. The servicemen,
right,
that are on the boots on the ground, that's trauma. Even in hearing about the war, that's trauma. But not only that, what I'm finding more and more, Stacie, maybe you can speak to that. Even the domestic war, the urban war that takes place in many of our communities, where drugs just find its way in the Black community. I mean, just by osmosis, it's amazing. That guns find themselves. I think it was Bobby Lavender who was the CEO of the Bloods in L.A. said that when he was 15, he used to cross the railroad tracks, and then one day he saw a train that stopped on the track, and it didn't move. They came back day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. The train was still there, but it was empty. So they opened up several compartments of the train, and they found semi-automatic weapons still in the box. Guns, pistols, still in the box. Left there near their projects of Jordan Downs. So, but that's trauma. So let me ask you this question: when we talk about these realities, and also how it can really trauma can affect the body. It can affect, the mind. It can affect, the prefrontal cortex and other parts of the brain. That's scientifically proven. When it comes to, you are a minister of the gospel. When it comes to faith base, when we see the Messiah himself, how he dealt with trauma, whether it was the woman with the issue of blood, whether it was the man who was paralyzed for 38 years, or whether it was the death of Lazarus and all of the grief that surrounded his death at the funeral procession. He dealt with the trauma. Do you see the faith-based community from a ministerial standpoint? Do you see it embracing the reality of trauma, especially in the Black community, as opposed to how we were absent of addressing it years ago, in the early 2000s, in the 90s or the 80s, etc.? Do you see the institution of church taking trauma seriously as the one that we say that we follow, the Messiah?
Oh, wow. I am going to say in part, yes, and in part, no. I'm going to say that I'm beginning to hear more pastors, and more clergy talk about mental health. And I don't know if the shift was because they saw the impact of 2020, not just the pandemic, but the political polarization and the police brutality, and just a combination of all those things, being isolated, not being able to open the church and bring people in. I feel like they didn't have a choice but to pivot and really hone in on and focus on. So I'm hoping and praying that it's a real thing and people didn't just pick it up because it's popular now. I hope and pray that clergy and, the church is really understanding that for as much as we know, for as much as we know that there are things that happen and take place in the atmosphere, I'm trying not to call the name. We know that there can be disillusionment. We know that there can be things that do try to frustrate the plans of God. We understand that. But we have to also take seriously and make it a priority to help people to focus on healing. Because, see, here's the problem. Dr. Joy DeGruy, she has this post-traumatic slave syndrome. And I didn't know that this book existed until a good friend of mine put this book in my hand and told me that I needed to read it. At this point, I feel like I need to read it again. But I had been saying the things that she said in the book for so long, for so many years. I had been talking about it got to be like we passed down this trauma from, slavery, certain things I was hearing us say or do, like, the whole whooping and spanking thing. I'm a beat you so nobody else don't have to kind of thing. Not understanding that what we're doing is actually bringing on some trauma. And I know I specifically know that I participated in that because it was something handed down to me and I did what was done. We do what we repeat what was already done, whatever we learn. And so unlearning all of those behaviors and teaching a new generation a new way to be able to react and or respond in a healthy manner that doesn't traumatize the next generation and generations moving forward, but give them the autonomy to really choose and to grow up and be healthy and whole and to be children. So I said a lot of things, but the bottom line is that this happened. I'm not even going to say half and half. It's like I'm watching people speak more about the importance of self-care and the importance of getting counseling and the importance of taking medicine if you need it. But at the same token, I don't know if that's a fad because it's popular right now. And then I see other people who still are just on if you sound crazy or you act crazy, and, I don't like that word crazy. I don't like that C word, but this is what I hear some people say. If you act crazy, you know what you're doing. There ain't nothing wrong with you, that kind of thing. And I'm just kind of like, clearly you haven't had nobody, clearly, you haven't really thought about the fact that, I can't remember the person in the Bible, but basically the way that I saw this whole picture was this person had these was able to hear different things, different voices or whatever, and they was kind of, and God was like, all right, just come out of that. Jesus called him and told him to come out of that. So, that's how I feel about it. And I don't know. I would like to see the church come together and really sit and create a safe space for people dealing with mental health issues so that they don't feel ostracized and so that they don't feel left out and so that they don't feel lonely and they don't feel like they have to commit suicide or they have to act, I don't know. So the answer to your question is a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're being forced to deal with it and really take it seriously because I think that God takes it seriously and he wants us to be more holistic. And
absolutely.
And I think that when we talk about the spiritual component, because we are spirit having a human experience. And for many people that may be listening right now, that they may be saying, well, listen, Zion and Stacie, I haven't had a real good human experience here on this planet. Okay, if we can just keep it 100, of many of the things that I've gone through, or many of the things that I'm going through at this moment in time, it hasn't been a good human experience for me. And so I think that when we get to a place of creating a healthy and comfortable environment for people to just be themselves, and I think that this is one of the reasons why depression and suicide rate, as well as addiction, is so powerfully seen even amongst clergy, because they feel that they can't talk to anyone. Many of them are bound by certain things. If I tell my business to somebody, then it will be seen in next week's church bulletin. My business will be in the street. So therefore, they find themselves going deeper and deeper into a place of depression or addiction until it takes them over. As it relates to law, I really want to kind of just go into a different direction, and having a background in law. Talk to me about that, because that's very interesting to me, because you're bringing so much to the table as it relates to this Unstoppable Me conference, overcoming adversity and whatnot. So what propelled you into that arena, and getting a master's in law?
Injustice. Injustice by itself is something that creates trauma, period. I'm not going to go into all of the details of it, but I'll just say that watching people be taken advantage of, watching people not be heard, being treated as if they are invisible and unseen, really took a toll on me. And I decided that I wanted to do something about it. I was already doing a lot within the nonprofit sector in Baltimore. I was doing community organizing and other work, advocacy work, as it relates to our young people and gang violence prevention and, feeding the homeless, with, all sorts of things, going and working in the shelters with with women who had experienced domestic violence, who have been trafficked, dealing with sexual assault, those sorts of things. So, like, my heart has always been to serve those who are vulnerable and those who are maybe feel like they are unseen and unheard. It doesn't mean that that's true, but that definitely might be something that they might really feel. And that's what really led me down the path way to law. And as it relates to that, like, I'm currently working with a few organizations out here working to advocate for legislative changes for mental health and for health overall, because I think here's a key thing, Zion, is that we are mind, body, and spirit. We're not just mind. We're not just body. We're not just spirit. We are what makes us whole are all of those components. And so I'm grateful that God gave me the heart to think about those things from the beginning, mind, body, and spirit, and to not separate them no matter what. So when I think about somebody who I'm inviting people to come to church, but, they're homeless and they don't have food, we think, I'm not supposed to be taking care. No, that's what we're supposed to do. Jesus went and he fed people before he could even speak to them and give them a sermon or teach them a lesson.
God today.
Amen. I think even Vicky Diller, she agrees with you.
God today.
So like that's important for me too. So I really appreciate being a part of the Arizona Peer and Family Coalition, working as a part of their advocacy committee. I've been a part of the diversity committee and really working to see how we could foster diversity, and not just appointing people. Again, this is another traumatic. I mean, you can think about trauma in so many different ways, right? And adversity, because can be adverse effects. You're appointing people to different positions in different places, but they don't have the heart of the people, then they don't need to be in that space. It doesn't matter whether it's from the church environment or whether or not it's in a job environment. It doesn't matter whether it's in nonprofit, if it's in our politics, if it's in government, whatever it is. If they don't have the heart for the people, and they're not going to these places just for their own selfish gain, then, if they're not for the people, then I don't think that they should really be in those spaces, because the people are the ones they are supposed to be representing, but they are the people who are being neglected. And I'm grateful to see so many people really come together, and especially people that have disabilities, not just mental health, SMIs, serious mental illness, but substance use disorder, that's the SUD, and also seeing people with other physical impairments and disabilities come together to say, hey, we're human, we're here, we are real, we are people, and we desire and deserve to be nurtured, to be loved, to be supported, and to have adequate and sufficient housing, to have adequate and sufficient jobs and pay for those jobs, that, people with serious mental illness can still have a good life, really. But it requires them having a good team around them. So this is the overcoming some of the adversities that we face, is having, adequate and sufficient food, healthy, nutritious foods for us that we are able to consume. Because unfortunately, a lot of the foods that we eat actually contribute to some of the things that happen internally, mentally, that help contribute to some of the mental breakdown. And then your environment, being able to consume, fresh air and good water. These things also can have an adverse effect on the body and the mind, which can contribute to breakdown of the body and the mind. So, when we talk about advocacy, it's for mind, body, and spirit. It's for a whole person. We're all whole people and should be treated as whole. But at this juncture, I believe that it's up to us as a community of people to really keep fighting for and pressing for and advocating for the things that benefit the community. And that involves the church as well. I hope the church will continue to remain involved and stay involved and look out for the people that are vulnerable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you just really said a mouthful, and that is where we are. I think that there's a shifting that's taking place. Because I really think that it's the will of God, but it's also the outcry of the people that they need more, and it's challenging us, those of us who are ministers, to give more by becoming more. And so, and that's what Jesus, Yeshua, did. He compelled the people, his disciples, to do just that. Okay, well, listen, they are hungry. They've been following for many days. Okay, listen, send them on their way. No, we're going to give them something to eat. And so I'm going to take a 2-piece fish dinner from a child. I'm going to multiply it. But guess what? I'm going to give it to you to feed the people. And I think that we become very lazy and lackadaisical in our approach as it relates to being so disconnected from the people that we claim that we're called to.
I agree. Amen. I definitely agree. You just now said also is like I said, Jesus, he double fed them. He gave them the physical substance that they needed for their body, and then he gave them a word that they needed for their spirit.
Absolutely. And tonight you've definitely have given us a word, and we've got to have you back on the show. I know you are wearing many hats and doing so many things, and great work out there in Phoenix, Arizona, and surrounding areas, Maricopa County. And but we got to get you back in to talk about your books, because we haven't even scratched the surface on your books that are amazing, and there's such a healing component to your writing, and so we've got to talk about that. So hopefully we can get you back in. You can pencil us in here, the little small people in Shame Free Life Radio. But I want you to tell people about the conference again, and and also provide information if, in fact, that if they're on the opposite end of the coast, if they can't get there, is it virtual? And behind that, how can people contact you directly to perhaps get your books, or if they need you to come to speak to their youth group or women's ministry or et cetera? How can they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So I'll address the first thing that you asked first. The Unstoppable You Ministries Conference. Again, the Unstoppable You Ministry Conference is going to be March the 12th, 2022. I do believe it's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Arizona Jewish Historical Society at 122 East Culver Street in Phoenix, Arizona, 85004. If you want to purchase tickets, or if you want to gift a ticket to someone who may not be able to attend otherwise, especially our youth, because we are having young people from as young as 11 years old and up to participate. This is a family-friendly event. You can go to www.uyc.eventbrite.com. That's www.uycphoenix.eventbrite.com. And if you wanted to, ask some additional questions, or you could also send info at unstoppableUministriesinc.org, and the host will definitely respond. So if you want to, give a donation, I believe you can do that again through that Eventbrite website, or you can send an email. And as far as being able to connect with me, please feel free to connect with me through my website, www.Stacie, that's Stacie, I always say I'm the IE, the extra, J, WHITAKER, Harris.com. And if you wanted to send an email to me, you would send it to Stacie at Stacie J, Whitaker-Harris.com. And I look forward to receiving any questions that people might have that we didn't address here, or I am definitely available to speak at any conferences that you may have out there. So thank you again, Zion, for allowing me to come and share with you and the guests tonight.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for gracing us, and also the listeners, because they're out there, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, et cetera, the Buzzsprout community. So we definitely have some hungry followers out there, and we definitely, again, have to have you back. And thank you so much again for gracing us with so much information, but also your presence and what you're doing, regardless of the left coast or the East Coast. We're all part of the same family to accomplish what we need to accomplish for the Most High. And so with that being said, as I always say, that your life begins when you say so. Thank you so much, Stacie Whitaker-Harris, for gracing us. And we will definitely have you back locked inside of the Shame Free Life Radio again. Peace and blessings to you.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you for joining us on the Shame Free Life Radio Show. For 15 Minutes of Shame, follow us on IG and Twitter at Shame Free Life. For information on promoting your business with us, contact us at theshamefreelife@gmail.com. Until next time, your life begins when you say so.